Welcome and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on early literacy using non-fiction levelled readers. Just a couple of things before we begin. The webinar is currently in listening only mode, but please feel free to type in any questions as they occur to you during the presentation. We will endeavour to address these questions at the end of the session. Firstly, I'd like to introduce the author team. I am Jay Dale and sitting beside me are Anne Giulieri and Kelly Gaffney. We'll each briefly tell you a little bit about ourselves. I am an experienced classroom teacher, writer, editor and publisher, and I have been writing level text for children for over 20 years.
Hello, my name is Anne Giulieri, and I have been teaching for over 30 years in areas of social disadvantage. I have a particular interest in curriculum design and behaviours that enhance learning. I have been writing level text for over 10 years.
Hello, my name's Kelly Gaffney and I have over 25 years of teaching experience. During this time I have specialised in teaching children with learning disabilities and reluctant readers. I have also been writing level text for over 5 years.
Great, thanks Anne and Kelly. Today's webinar will involve an overview of early literacy and the role of non-fiction texts in its development. We will also explain how non-fiction texts are levelled and how they can be used in the classroom. All right, well, literacy involves speaking, listening, reading and writing. Research tells us early literacy is a key indicator of school success. As we know, the rapid language development that takes place early in a child's life provides scaffolding for future learning. When a child enters a school environment, the guidance and support provided by educators promotes further language and literacy development. For the purpose of this webinar, when we talk about early literacy, we will be referring to children between the ages of 4 and 12, and specifically the use of levelled non-fiction text to teach reading in a classroom setting. Non-fiction texts have factual content. The information they contain may be presented in a variety of different ways. For example, non-fiction texts can take the form of a report, transactional text, a recount, procedural text, an exposition, an explanation, a description, a discussion, or a response. A report provides information about a particular topic. An example of this text type is a newspaper article. Reports can be descriptive, investigative, scientific, or technical. Non-fiction texts can also be transactional. Transactional texts enable the writer to communicate with the reader. A recount is another example of a non-fiction text where the writer tells an experience or an event. Autobiographies and the retelling of historical events are examples of recounts. Non-fiction texts can also be procedural. This type of text tells us how to do something. Some examples of procedural texts are recipes, directions, instructions, and the rules for a game. An exposition is another example of a non-fiction text. Its purpose is to persuade or convince others. For example, a letter to the editor, an advertisement, or a speech. Non-fiction text can also take the form of an explanation. This type of text explains why or how things happen. A description details the characteristics of a subject, using one or more of the 5 senses. It can also use similes and metaphors. Non-fiction text can also take the form of a discussion. A discussion presents different aspects of an issue or topic. A film review is an example of a discussion. A response describes a personal reaction to a text or situation. For example, a response might express the way you feel about a book. Sometimes a non-fiction text can be a combination of more than one text type. For example, a recount might take the form of a diary entry. Understanding and identifying the structure and features within a non-fiction text help to improve understanding of the text. Text structure refers to the organization of information within a text. Text structure helps students understand the types of information the text might contain. The text structures are description, sequence and order, comparing and contrasting, cause and effect, and problem and solution. Description. Descriptive details provide information that enhance visualizing. They help the reader to make a picture in their mind. Sequence and order are also very important in a non-fiction text. In a procedural text, for example, information needs to be presented in a specific order. The text structure of comparing and contrasting highlights similarities and differences. Cause and effect provides information about why things happen. A text can also be structured using problem and solution. A problem is described and one or more solutions are presented. Over to Kelly now.
Engaged literacy fiction texts contain a number of features that help to locate information, explain, expand and define. Some of these features include a title page, a glossary containing either pictures or words, labels, captions for illustrations and photographs, a table of contents, an index, headings, subheadings and keywords, diagrams, text boxes such as did you know or interesting facts, and maps. The text features are gradually introduced, starting with basic features and moving to more complex features. Some examples are the title page, which cues the child into the topic of the text, a picture glossary to provide the child with support when they encounter unfamiliar words, a worded glossary that replaces the picture glossary in higher level text, italicized words that correspond to the picture glossary or worded glossary, labelled pictures and photos that help children with unfamiliar words and concepts in the text. Captions for illustrations and photographs serve a similar purpose, but they provide the reader with more detail. A table of contents helps the reader to locate information in the text. An index at the higher levels provides the reader with another tool to locate information. Headings, subheadings and keywords also assist with the location of information. Diagrams, such as the soccer field shown in the text, provide a visual representation to help clarify concepts. Text boxes such as did you know or interesting facts add additional information. And maps also provide visual representation to support the text. All engaged non-fiction texts have an inside front cover, which contain the text level, a word count, the curriculum link, the text type, a list of the words that have been introduced or extend the reader's vocabulary, examples of questions that can be asked, links to a corresponding fiction text, and at the lower level, phonological and graphophonic teaching focus for the text. Engaged literacy non-fiction texts are precisely levelled and carefully constructed. This provides the scaffolding that ensures reading success. Many things are taken into consideration when writing non-fiction texts for engaged literacy. These include developmentally appropriate sound combinations. An example of this is the consonant-vowel combinations used in the words at, am, and big in the Level 3 text school. Graded word lists are also taken into consideration when constructing non-fiction texts. These lists contain high-frequency words and words that relate specifically to the topic. An example of a topic word is the word animals in the text The Environment Park. The use of levelled academic vocabulary is also carefully considered when constructing engaged literacy non-fiction text. Word counts, sentence structure, natural phrasing, line breaks and page breaks become more complex as the text level increases. Engaged literacy non-fiction texts also consider developmentally appropriate content and concepts, moving from the immediate world of family to school to community and finally to the wider world.
Now we will explain how non-fiction texts can be used in your classroom. The first thing to do is to tune the children into the topic that is going to be introduced in the text. This is an excellent way to immerse children in the language and concepts they may encounter when reading. Tuning in is important for all levels, from level 1 to 30. Tuning in can take the form of a discussion, purposeful questioning, looking at pictures or objects that relate to the topic, movement or role play to engage children, or by brainstorming topic-specific vocabulary. Tuning in prior to reading a non-fiction text provides children with an opportunity to gain and share knowledge. Questions and discussion introduce and extend vocabulary. There are many question stems that tune children into a topic. For example, prior to reading a text on playgrounds, a teacher may ask questions such as, when might you go to a playground? What do you know about playgrounds? What do you think makes a good playground? Tuning in can also involve the 5 senses. Ask questions such as, what does something look like, feel like, sound like, taste like, smell like? For example, prior to reading the Level 11 text Baby Farm Animals, show pictures of a farm and ask questions such as, what animals might you see on a farm? What sound does a cow make? What does a lamb feel like? What does a pig smell like? What does milk taste like? There are many other ways to tune children into a topic. Pictures and digital resources can be used. Topic-specific vocabulary can be brainstormed during discussions, and movement and role play can even be used to explore unfamiliar concepts. A story walk through a non-fiction text is pivotal in providing children an opportunity to develop a bank of knowledge before they begin reading the text. It gives children the chance to use their prior knowledge to visualise, to make connections, and to predict and to clarify. It also gives children the opportunity to share and discuss. For beginning and early readers, the process is teacher-driven, and each child is guided through the text. By looking at each page and discussing key elements, a supportive base is provided for the child to build their reading and comprehension skills. Once the child has been given the book, the story walk involves looking at the title and the front cover and asking questions such as, what do you think this book might be about? Why? Read the blurb and ask the children what information they might find out by reading this book. Flip through each page in the text. Ask specific questions that will cue the child into events, vocabulary, and concepts that will help them read the text. For example, at lower levels, it might be as simple as highlighting the events that occur on each page. Using the Level 9 text dinosaurs as another example, you might ask the child to look at the dinosaur on a page and ask, what does the word dinosaur start with? Can you find the word dinosaur on this page? What is the dinosaur doing? You can also highlight vocabulary in the text. For example, this dinosaur is big. Can you find the word big on this page? Continue this for all pages of the text. Once the reader gets to a Level 9 text and beyond, Continue to ask questions, but also cue the child into the concepts and the text features. For example, you could ask, is this a fiction or a non-fiction text? How can you tell? Talk about labels, italicized words, picture glossary, and headings and their purpose. For the developing reader, levels 21 to 30, children can be given the opportunity to learn with and learn from other students as well as teachers. For example, if using the level 25 text, Wild Savannah Zoos, discussion and predictions could involve questions such as, what do you think the word savannah might mean? Or why might a map of Africa be shown? And what might the different colours on the map indicate? Or why do you think the word desert and rainforest are italicised? From beginning readers right through to the more competent readers, a story walk and prediction help to provide the reader with a solid base to begin reading. The use of non-fiction text also provides children a wonderful opportunity to extend their vocabulary. This can occur by looking at subject-specific vocabulary and through concept development. For example, in a text such as Whirlybirds, vocabulary related to helicopters such as hover, rotor and whirl is introduced. This gives the teacher and the child the opportunity to discuss these words and their meaning. An understanding of concepts can also be further developed by discussing words that seem easy to decode but may not necessarily be understood by the child. Sometimes a word is considered suitable for higher levels due to its conceptual complexity, rather than the child's ability to decode the word. For example, consider the word depend. Depend is an easy word to sound out, yet a hard word to conceptualise. A child could read the word in a sentence, but have no understanding of its meaning. Again, this is an opportunity for the meaning of words to be discussed and the child's vocabulary to be extended. After tuning children in and completing a story walk or prediction, the child is now ready to read the text. Different approaches can be used when reading, depending on the text level and the child's developmental stage. For lower levels, the child reads each page using word correspondence and decoding to assist them. As the child reads aloud, the teacher provides the necessary support, encouragement and questioning to guide the child through the text. For levels 1 to 8, the child reads the text aloud using meaning, structure and visual cues to decode and comprehend the text. Cue the child into repetitive phrases and ask them to summarise the text in their own words. For levels 9 to 20, the child may read aloud or independently. Continue to develop and discuss strategies that the child is using and to ask them to relate the text to their own experiences. Highlight text features and ask the child inferential questions. As the text level increases in complexity, that is from levels 21 to 30, and the child's reading skills develop, the reading approach becomes more reciprocal in nature, and the child learns to question more deeply, analyse, and monitor the information they are reading. The child also predicts, clarifies, visualises, questions, and summarises each page, paragraph, and subsection of the text, sharing and discussing their thoughts and ideas. In the lower levels, the child is learning to read, and as they progress to the higher levels, they are reading to learn.
Non-fiction texts also provide an excellent platform to teach comprehension strategies such as using prior knowledge, making connections, predicting, clarifying and monitoring, questioning, visualising, inferring, summarising and evaluating. There are a number of comprehension sub-skills that underpin the major comprehension strategies. These can also be developed. These skills include recall, sequencing, word understanding and development, paraphrasing, identifying the main idea, understanding cause and effect, comparing and contrasting, and differentiating fact and opinion.
Tapping into a child's prior knowledge using non-fiction texts involves asking children to recall their experiences and share their knowledge and ideas about a subject. For example, using Level 17, Fins and Fur, ask, what animals have you seen or touched that have fur? Making connections involves the child connecting the non-fiction text with their own experience and other texts they have read, and with the world around them. For example, using the Level 12 text recycling, assist the child to make connections about the recycling that can happen within their home, their school, and the wider community. Predicting when using non-fiction texts involves the child using their knowledge of text structures and features, what they have read so far, and their own experiences to help them anticipate what they will read. For example, using the Level 21 text Weather Watch, ask the child to predict how different weather can affect our lives. Clarifying and monitoring when using non-fiction texts involves the child continually thinking about their reading. They check for understanding of vocabulary and sentences and seek clarification when required. They ask themselves, does this make sense? What does this mean? Is there a synonym for this word? This can occur during and after reading. For example, you can explore vocabulary with the Level 24 text Playing Team Sports using the glossary on page 24. By cueing the child into the glossary and the italicised words, it enables the child to develop an independent strategy to work out unknown words. Questioning involves the child seeking clarification and extending their thinking by asking and answering questions to do with the non-fiction text. It helps them to make connections and extend their thinking. For example, by answering and asking questions about the Level 22 text Whirlybird, the child is developing a deeper understanding of helicopters and the concept of flight. Visualising involves the child creating sensory images in their mind that represents the non-fiction text. For example, using the Level 11 text Baby Farm Animals, the child can explore the topic using their 5 senses. By using their experiences, the child can talk about what a baby duck looks like. It is fluffy and yellow and has little web feet. It also has a hard beak. Inferring involves the child making a reasonable guess based on their prior knowledge, what they have read, and their reasoning beyond what has been literally stated. For example, using the Level 25 text City Life, Farm Life, the child can use the knowledge gained by reading the text to infer positive and negative aspects of farm life and city life. This information can be shared and presented in many ways. Some examples are verbally, in T-charts or Venn diagrams. Summarising involves the child organising their thoughts and identifying the main idea and key information presented in the text. For example, a child can be given a paragraph from the text and identify the main idea and summarise the supporting information. This can be done by highlighting key words and phrases, by paraphrasing and expanding an understanding of topic-specific vocabulary. Engaged literacy comprehension strategy cards provide helpful prompts to assist with summarising. Evaluating involves the child explaining their response to or understanding of a text. Venn diagrams, PMIs, what-ifs, and I wonder clouds can assist a child to evaluate a text they have read. Non-fiction text can be a launching pad for students to further explore concepts and topics, applying, analysing, evaluating, and synthesising from the information and knowledge gained. It helps our children become aware of the world around them. Engaged literacy non-fiction texts are levelled and carefully scaffolded to assist with the teaching of reading and comprehension. They also provide a platform for immersion and self-discovery, allowing children to explore their interests, passions and wonderings.
Thank you very much, Anne and Kelly. That was absolutely excellent. That does conclude our presentation for today. We are now very happy to take any questions that you might have. Let's just have a look. Do we have, oh yes, we do have a question. We have a question from Karen. Thanks, Karen, for your question. Why do children often find non-fiction texts more difficult? Okay, I think you'd probably be the best one to answer that one, Anne. I'll just pass that over to you.
That's an interesting question. I have found this in my classroom teaching, and I believe it actually happens because non-fiction texts really, you rely on your experience and subject-specific vocabulary. So often if you're teaching children who have had limited life experiences or have language deficits, then there's a real gap in their knowledge base and their vocabulary. But then on the other hand, by actually introducing non-fiction text, you are opening up their world and exposing them to experiences. And you actually then help the child to develop their vocabulary. But what I do is really cue the children into all those non-fiction features like the glossary, the words, the photographs, the labels and diagrams, and to actually show them how this information can be used to assist them. And one of the most important things is to do the tuning in and the story walk with the child first, because it gives them a base to begin their reading, and it just makes the transition a lot easier for them. I hope that's kind of
that was
summarised
fantastic.
for you.
And a lot of children actually prefer non-fiction text, but they're sort of put off a little bit because it, often it looks like the level is a little bit more difficult. But as writers ourselves, we've worked towards ensuring that our non-fiction texts are levelled in the same manner as our fiction texts, so a child shouldn't find them, greatly more difficult at all.
It's interesting too. Sometimes reluctant readers, and often boys, really thrive on non-fiction texts. So I think you pick texts that suit the child, and I think that's the key to success with any text you select.
Great, thanks Anne. Okay, so we also have another question. This is from Mary. Just have a quick look. How do you know when to move a child to the next level? That's a good question, isn't it?
It's a question that everyone always wants to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what do you think, Cal?
I think some people think that the most important thing to consider is the child's reading accuracy, but I think it's really important that you look at the fluency that the child's reading with. If a child's reading really slowly or even too quickly, they're probably not comprehending what they're the information that they're reading. And I think it's really worth making sure that the child's able to answer questions about the text. Because, sometimes children are just reading the words on the page but not really processing it. So I think you need to be very careful not to move kids up too quickly through the levels, and just making sure that they're able to answer comprehension questions about the text.
I was going to say the data that you can use by analysing children's reading is great. Like, data is a fabulous tool, but there's other forms of data too, and as Kelly said, it's listening to the child, asking questions, that anecdotal data that you gain every single day. So I think it's not as black and white as just looking at accuracy. You need to look at the bigger picture.
You probably need to make sure that they're pausing, making appropriate pauses for comprehension and reading with expression and things like that too.
And also, taking the time to actually have a conversation. The best tool to assess a child is actually to have a conversation, to converse, to ask them questions and to allow them to ask questions, and really that is the best way to gain an understanding of their knowledge base.
Absolutely, and I've had a child in my classroom who was absolutely an excellent reader, we thought, but until we questioned her and talked about the story, she actually had very little understanding of the actual text. So we often, term that barking at text, and that can can confuse a lot of people sometimes. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Have you guys got anything more to offer today? No. Okay, so I'll just move on before we totally conclude. Look, for further information about Engage Literacy, please go to the website featured on your screen. Also, look out tomorrow for an email from us. It'll have a link to this video recording of the webinar. So we really enjoyed everyone listening to us and being part of this. So on behalf of the author team, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.